So my name is Jenny. I'm from We Democracy. We are a community and movement of Israelis in the UK and British Jews that support liberal democracy in Israel and a diplomatic solution between Palestinians and Israelis. And today's Zoom session is a session that I really wish we didn't need to have, but we felt that it is essential that we have it. It's been truly awful to watch what's happening daily in the West Bank and to see the settler violence getting worse and worse. And it is deeply disturbing to see how the Israeli army and law enforcement are not intervening for the most part, and how the Israeli government is not only ignoring the issue, but there are ministers who are openly encouraging the violence. But we know that the current situation didn't just emerge out of nowhere. And so today we'll talk about what's happening on the ground, but also about how we got here. And I will pass now to Rovi, Professor Rovi Ziegler, who's based in Oxford, and he will be leading today's session. He'll introduce himself and Hagit Ofran, who is kindly joining us from Israel. Please can I ask everyone to stay on mute? Feel free to write any questions, comments, reflections in the chat. I will be monitoring the chat, and we will definitely leave time for discussion and questions in the second half of this session. So Rovi and Hagit, thank you so much for being with us this evening, and over to you.
Wonderful. Thanks very much, Jenny, and thanks everyone for joining us this evening. So, as Jenny said, my name is Ruvi Ziegler. I'm Associate Professor in International Refugee Law at the University of Reading, and I have various other UK affiliations and used to be involved with the Israel Democracy Institute in Israel as well on issues around international law, human rights, migration, and asylum. And This session will be led by our very esteemed guest, Hagit Ofran, who I know from a very long time past, and it's absolutely wonderful to be meeting her virtually again in this forum, albeit, as Jenny said, not in the happiest circumstances. So, just a little bit about Hagit. Hagit works at the Settlement Watch project of the Israeli peace movement, Peace Now, which is requires a great deal of resilience, as you can imagine, and she's been doing it for a very long time. She's really widely recognized as an expert on issues relating to West Bank settlements, perhaps one of the experts that exist on this. So we're very fortunate to have her. And indeed, the Settlement Watch project is a resource for Israeli politicians, for diplomats, for the international media, for organizations, and indeed intended for the Israeli public, if only they care to listen. So, what we will do this evening is Hagit will start with a presentation, and then I may start with a couple of follow-up questions, and then we'll turn over to you. As Jenny said, you can already, as we go through the presentation, put in questions in the chat. But obviously, there will be time for spontaneous questions, and if people want to come on screen, we'll be very happy for that to be the case as well. But for now, I'm delighted to hand over to Hagit.
Thank you so much. Thank you all for joining and for inviting me. So, I am a Jerusalemite. I'm here in Jerusalem, and I grew up, religious family, Zionist, very involved in many in the society. And very soon, as I grew up, I realized that one of the most important things for me is the issue of Israeli occupation over the occupied territories, and the fact that the the state of the Jewish people, of all states in the world, is a state that is controlling other people. And I thought that it was wrong. I also thought, and I still think, that it's also bad for Israel. And I think what we're seeing today with the collapse, I would almost say collapse of democracy, or many of the democratic aspects of Israel, has to do with the fact that we are on and with a prolonged occupation of land that is not part of Israel, and millions of Palestinians without rights. So this was my motivation. This is my motivation to join Peace Now as an activist, and later to work in Peace Now. And I feel privileged that my job is something that I care a lot about, and I feel that I'm doing something significant in one of the most important things in Israeli life. So my job, what we're trying to do in the Settlement Watch, is to monitor settlement activity, and to not let go of it, and to bring it all the time up in the public debate, so that any settlement development will not pass quietly. That's what we're trying to do. So we try to know everything that is going on the ground, or to analyze news that are coming. We engage with the Israeli public, with the press, with politicians, in the social media, of course, and also with diplomats. And we publish everything also in English. And we became a very central source of information on Israel's policies on settlements. And I can tell you, the last 3 years are a huge change. I feel it in every day. The government made far-reaching changes administratively and also on the ground. And I would like to describe to you a little bit of that, and tell you that even in the past, we used to print out a map of the settlements every several years, and it wasn't big differences in the maps. Today, I hold a map which is less than 1 year old, and it's already missing about 80 new settlement outposts, because they establish a new outpost every week, twice a week. So in the past, I could go out once a week, or once in 2 weeks, just to keep track of things. Today, my colleague Yoni Mizrach is doing most of the on-the-ground research, and he is very hard to keep up with all the new outposts that are on the ground. And I think under the shadow of the horrible war on Gaza, or attacks on Gaza, and after what happened also in Israel, the horrible attack on 7th of October, the West Bank was much less in the public attention, both in Israel and in the world. And the West Bank of today is totally different than of 3 years ago. So just to mention a few administrative moves that the government did. First of all, they took out the authorities from the civil administration, which is a military body that is supposed to manage the West Bank, and established a new position, which is called the civilian deputy of the head of the civil administration, which is not part of the military, and it's reporting directly to Minister Smotrich, who is nominated as a special minister in the Ministry of Defense. And although it's just administrative decision, but it changes the very way that Israel is managing the West Bank, no longer according to international law by the military, but directly by the government, and the minister can order this deputy to do whatever the minister wants, and there is no buffer to which is the army or the legal advisory of the army that will consider the Palestinian interests or rights, and that is dramatic. It's also a really direct violation of international law, but this is something that Israel has been doing all the time. The government decided on establishment of 68 new settlements, official settlements. They decided only last week to open land registration process, which will enable the state to take over a huge amount of land in the West Bank. They decided 2 weeks ago to claim or to take authority to demolish construction of Palestinians in areas A and B, in the 40% that are, according to the international agreements that Israel signed, are under the Palestinian Authority, where almost around 2.5 million Palestinians live, where all the cities and the villages are in areas A and B. And Israel decides unilaterally that if we see construction that is harming the archaeology, the environment, or water, we can demolish it, meaning that Israel will be able to prevent any Palestinian development. Today, Israel is preventing development in Area C, which is 60% of the West Bank, and now they will be able to do it also in the rest of the West Bank. And there are so many other measures that took place administratively. On the ground, I started to mention the illegal outposts or the farm outposts that are established. The so many cases of settler violence, and that are, I believe you all hear about, or you see videos of another attack or another burning of houses, or hitting of people, or stealing sheep, or all horrible attacks that are happening daily. Uh, so I wanted to dive into this issue of the settler violence, and how it's backed by the government, and how it is part of a policy that is not by accident, and it's not just racist settlers who are violent. It's an organized effort. So I think at around 2017 or 18, we started to see a new phenomena in the West Bank, which was shepherding outposts, the farms of settlers who have some flocks, some sheep or cows. They take a hilltop, a young couple, maybe with children, and a few youngsters that will start to go around, usually with their sheep daily in the surrounding areas, and by that also kick out Palestinians from their surrounding. And sometimes it was done uh, only, by threatening or calling the army and saying this Palestinian is in land that is not supposed to be, or more violently uh, uh, with the direct attacks. They, the adults in those farms are have guns, and so you don't want to mess with them. And Palestinians were starting to be kicked out of their lands. Shepherds couldn't go out with their sheep in in the surrounding of those outposts. And in so if I say it was 2017 till 2022, they managed to establish, I think, 50, something like that, 50 farms, which is a lot. But in the next 3 years, they established another 120, or a little more than that. Uh, and what happened is that, let me show you a map. I don't know if you can see, it's a map of the West Bank. You can see the brown area is the Palestinian areas, and there are red areas that are marked in red. This map is from almost 1 year ago, of lands that those shepherding outposts took, meaning that Palestinians cannot enter those lands anymore. And if you can notice the yellow dots, these are Palestinian communities that were expelled by settler violence. And this is based on a research or report that we published 1 year ago, together with Kerem Navot, with Dror Etkes, who did most of the mapping of this land. And we are now about to publish an update of it, and it's already 1 million dunam, above more than 1 million dunams, which is 18% of the West Bank that Palestinians cannot really enter anymore as a result of those farms and the attacks by the settlers. We're talking about almost 120 communities that were expelled, and now it's a question of how do you find a community, or if you have three families living, it's mainly Bedouin communities or shepherding communities, Palestinian communities that were expelled, but not only Bedouins. We're talking about 1,800 attacks that were monitored by the UN only during 2025, I mean, during last year, and only cases where you have damage to properties or to people or to casual people that got hurt. and 9 Palestinians were killed by settlers in 2025. Last week, another Palestinian youngster was killed also by a settler attack. So we're talking about um, a, a drama that is taking place um, of a systematic kicking out the Palestinians. So you can say it's the settlers that are doing it, and there is leadership, and it is organized, and um, they speak openly about what they want to do. I mean, I have here a quote from Elisha Yered, who's one of the leaders of Hilltop Youth, that is writing, "There is nothing like hearing about yet another Arab invasion outpost that has left the area, um, like celebrating the expulsion of the communities. But it's not only violent settlers that are allowed to do whatever they want. They say it's the government backing them. If you look now on the photos in the that I'm showing, you see pictures of ceremonies of where ministers of the government are giving those ranger cars to the settler farms. And they are proud of it. They make a ceremony, they um, uh, brag that they brought uh, the development or the equipment to the farms. And what used to be uh, before this government in much smaller scale, and where the settlers had to do it with money that they either got unofficially and illegally from the municipalities of the West Bank settlements or from organizations like Amana. Now it became clear on the table government budgeting to those farms. And the way the government did this was, officially those farms are considered illegal according to the Israeli laws because they lack the planning and the approval of construction. So the legal acrobatics was to say, this is we are funding only security measures, and security measures that are not construction. For instance, if it's a solar panel that is only put on the ground, then it's not construction. If we give them those Ranger cars, if we give them drones, if we give them cameras, if we bring electricity to light the area, and if we open roads for them. Roads are security because they need to have access or to be able to run away from an attack or to bring the troops if you need. And if you have one road, you also need another one in case the road is blocked. So you can have this as an excuse. And this way, we mapped 222 kilometers of new dirt roads that were paved and opened in the last 2 years by settlers. And this is a lot of money. You cannot just a settler with a bulldozer do it by himself. And it is all part of the security measures. And it is signed by the legal advisors. In order to open the road, they have a signature from the commander of the military that says, "I need this for security," and then it becomes kosher. and they can fund it. So this is one way that the government helps those farms. Um, there was a Knesset hearing last week that was initiated by the opposition on the involvement of the government in the illegal outposts, and the right-wing Knesset members came there and said proudly how they are proud about the fact that the government is supporting this illegal system. They were proud about the million dunams that they took over. Really, there is no shame at all in what they're doing, and there are. I mean, I can elaborate more on more ways that the government is supporting it, but I would like to um, give you another two things. One that I think is crucial and central is the military. And there is a change in the way the military treats those settlements, those outposts. The Central Command, who is in charge of the West Bank, has actually initiated a special unit to protect those farms. And this, I believe, is legitimate. If there are Israelis anywhere, the military is supposed to protect them. However, this unit is made. I think it's a brigade, um, right? A gdud is a brigade. I don't know.
More like a battalion, I think,
Oh,
actually.
battalion. Okay, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah.
So many soldiers that they are all reserve duty and they are settlers by themselves, so that it's easy to deploy them in the settlements. And there you have those settlers with uniforms that will protect those farms, sometimes live in the farm, and will join the settlers when they go and harass Palestinians, or they will protect them when they harass the Palestinians. And whenever there is an attack or on Palestinians and the military comes, automatically what they do is to kick out the Palestinians, not the settlers, because they are trained to protect the Israelis from the potential threats of Palestinians. So automatically they will protect the settlers, even if the settlers are the attackers. So what you have with this unit is that you have settlers in uniform. Some of them are very extreme. Some of them already, been living in the farm or uh, are known for the Palestinians know them as settlers that harass them. Now they come with the uniform and the weapon of the Israeli military, and they kick them out. So that's also a dramatic change in the way that the IDF treats those farms. And the second um, aspect is the lack of law enforcement. The police is controlled by an ultra Jewish supremacy minister who was Itamar Ben-Gvir, who he himself trained many hilltop youth to become violent against Palestinians. And he uses his power as minister, actually violates his duties as minister and intervenes in the work of the police by nominating people and encouraging those who are doing what he's saying, so that the police is totally, totally irrelevant or not active in preventing or law enforcement on those attacks. So this is how you get. Uh, Last night there was an attack of, they burned several houses in Susia near South Hebron Hills, and this afternoon they burned a few structures not far from Ma'ale Adumim, and I cannot not think that it's like every night we have a Kristallnacht uh, under Israeli, authority. Uh, and this is the situation now. And I think the challenge of undoing all this is going to be very, very heavy and very hard. Yeah, but you please, Ruvi, remind me that I need also to say something more encouraging.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think thank you, Hagit. I mean, I think you can carry on. There's already a question in the chat which I was actually going to in slightly different terms put to you, but it might not be something encouraging, but it might be something proactive, right? Or something about what can be done. What can be done. I think a summary of John's question is um, particularly, I think, in this context about the UK and the UK lawmakers, and we have an MP with us actually on the call who is chair of the Foreign Affairs Select Committee, Emily Thornberry. What can we do from this country to try and limit the appeal of these moves to the government, to the Israeli public? What levers exist, including sanctions and others? So maybe you want to say something about maybe also the position of Peace Now about these types of pressures or measures.
Um, because it's so hard, because the gap between the powers of Israel and the Palestinians, that it's so huge. I mean, we are so strong, and Palestinians are so weak. It seems so hard to stop it or to change it. Um, in the past, I used to say the key to end this is in the Israeli public opinion. It is in the Israeli public. I still think eventually it's the Israelis that need to undo it or to stop the occupation. But it's very hard to bring people to give up on their power. Um, and we have to use some pressure. And what Peace Now is trying to do is to affect the Israeli public opinion, mainly. Um, to first of all not to let go of it, and to hold the torch, and to put pressure also on the leaders of the um, discourse of influencers, and to make them also speak about it so that more people will be against it, etc. But um, because we need so much power, we also need pressure from outside. Um, and anything that will push us towards ending the occupation, or making, I mean, even just stopping those horrible things that are going on, is something that is welcome. It's very hard now with this crazy world that we're living in, and the fact that Trump is the president. I mean, with so many bad things that happens, in the same time. Also, the elections in Israel, it was an accident. I mean, if you count the popular vote, uh, more people voted against Netanyahu than in favor of Netanyahu, but they didn't pass the threshold of entering the Knesset, so that eventually Netanyahu got this majority that he can do whatever he wants. And um, so what I'm saying is that if you can do, whatever civilians can do, put pressure, speak out, try to mobilize the world to change the policy. I think in terms of settlements, um, there is no justification to any cooperation with settlements. Settlements are um, a crime, not only morally, but a crime according to the international law. The um, International Court of Justice said it loud and clear 1 year ago. So the tools that the government, foreign governments have is to be clear. We're not cooperating. So if there is a bank, I don't know, for instance, it's a bank that is uh, giving services to construction in settlements, maybe this bank should be, warned that it's not acceptable, that they cannot cooperate. I mean, even legally, you can always use the legal excuse that we cannot support it, we cannot trade with the settlements, etc. This is something, I think it's just another component in the very important message that Israel should uh, get, which is that you cannot really live like that. I mean, we've been many years now feeling in Israel that we can go on like that forever. We
Mm,
had this notion, which is called the nihul sichsuch, managing the conflict. That was
mm,
and Netanyahu was like the really um, he did so successfully manage the conflict, right? We were so prosperous. Nobody talked about the Palestinians. We got agreements with Arab countries, the Abraham Accords, and all that, and it worked so greatly for Israel to continue this policies. And I think, unfortunately, we need to learn that it doesn't work, that we need to
mm.
pay in order to give up on our powers or on our ex, extra rights that we hold. It's very hard to make people give it up voluntarily. So we need pressure, unfortunately.
Yeah, no, thank you. So I'll just gonna add to that what you were saying about the International Court of Justice. I mean, I've argued in various forums and also politically that it's not really a choice, as you say, from an international law perspective. The International Court of Justice said last year in the advisory opinion that it is incumbent on all countries that are signatories to the Geneva Conventions, which the UK, of course, is, and all countries are, to not assist in any way in fact the continuation of the occupation as a whole, but very specifically naming the settlement project. So arguably any day in which the UK doesn't take a proactive step to stop its trade with settlements, it's and any other country is arguably breaching that holding of the ICJ. And so yeah, certainly think in addition to your policy argument, I think there's a strong law argument. I'll put to you another question that came from the chat, which is kind of another perhaps practical question from Charlotte, which is Charlotte's asking if you have an Israeli passport, what is the best way to get trained or to join a protective presence in the West Bank? So to try essentially, particularly, I mean, the picture you've portrayed is horrendous, and I used to know the territory quite well, and it's manifestly worse as you describe, just by looking at the map, but also looking at the numbers. So what can people with an Israeli citizenship do to try and protect Palestinians as a matter of civic presence, as you were?
Yeah, I think to look at the bright side is that there are many people who are against this. And there are even people in Israel that are ready to volunteer and to go out to be with the Palestinians that are under attack. We have hundreds of people now um, that, 24 hours present on the ground with the Palestinians, trying to ease or to protect physically the Palestinians from those attacks. Their presence is very, very important because not only because it if the Palestinian community, if they are asking this presence, is because they feel more secure if there are Israelis there, but also they can bring the story and they video everything, and it's becoming more known to Israelis and more known to the world. It's a testimony. It's also something very important that is going on. And so there are many, I don't know, many, but there are a few groups that organize those protective presence. There are groups that also do other activities like escorting or being with farmers when they go
Mm,
out or when they try to go out to cultivate land where settlers might attack them. So sometimes they organize um, uh, working day that volunteers will come and be there or do some cultivation with the Palestinians. So these kind of things are ongoing all the time, um, and it's really, I think it's making one step, and it has a lot of meaning. I mean, sometimes when we speak about how hard it is to do it, and more communities are being expelled, and uh, we don't know how many days we we held them or we helped them. And in the situation that we are at, we are fighting to to hold another dunam or to
mm,
so it is dramatic.
mm,
Um,
yeah.
so if there was a practical question of how to get there, I can give you some names or telephones if you want.
Well, perhaps we can share. I mean, you can pass on to Jenny because we
Yeah,
will be sending out the recording of this presentation, and if you have some of your data, if you're happy to share it,
yeah, sure,
then I think there will be people who will be interested in taking this forward practically. So yeah, I
sure.
think they'll be wonderful. I wanted to ask you actually specifically on this. In a way, the official way in which the state has moved to try and I would say I would call it annexation by stealth, right? So rather than using the term and annexation, rather formally annex and get the whole world to be angry, then they've seemed to have chosen a much cleverer way, which was to do things that look administrative but are much more substantive in their application. And I think one thing that caught a lot of people's attention was the decision to, as you were, activate the plan to sorry, the plan around E1, so that connection east of Jerusalem. So I wonder if you could talk a
Yeah.
little bit about what that is intended to do in terms of the West Bank.
Yes, thank you for asking that. E1 is an area east of Jerusalem where um, Israel wanted to build a new settlement. Or officially, it's an expansion of Ma'ale Adumim settlement. And it was a taboo. The Americans and the world didn't let Israel to move forward with this plan until we got this administration in the US that doesn't care. And Israel uh, approved the plan in E1, which is a plan for 3,400 units. Um, and they not only approved it, they also issued a bid or a tender for it um, to be for the construction of it. So it might be in a few months that we will see some of
Mm,
the construction going on. I just shared on
that's
my
great.
screen uh, a map of the center of the West Bank. You can see Ramallah, East Jerusalem, and Bethlehem as the heart of the West Bank. It's actually the metropolitan area of the West
Mm,
Bank. About 1 million Palestinians live in this area. And if they are to expand, it's in the area where E1 is, and it's actually Israel want to take over the red area here in E1 in Ma'ale Adumim and not allow Palestinians any access to it. And along with E1 plan, Israel is also promoting a road that is actually, they informed that they will start this month, but there are still some legal petitions against it. So it is now on hold for several weeks. But I want to show you the road because on this map, there is this dotted yellow line, which is the route for all Palestinian cars from north to south of the West Bank. They cannot drive from Bethlehem to Ramallah through East Jerusalem because it's surrounded with a fence. So they need um, to do a detour around East Jerusalem. So this is the road that they're taking. And as you can see on the map, near the settlement of Ma'ale Adumim, the road is going along the Ma'ale Adumim and then turns to the north to a village called Chizmeh and then goes on to Ramallah. Israel is now going to pave a road for the Palestinians so that they will not need to go in Ma'ale Adumim, but they will bypass the Israeli E1 Ma'ale Adumim area from the west. And now you can see on the map the alternative road. So Israel will say to you, it's a shortcut. For the Palestinians, it is shorter, yes. The problem is that as soon as this road is paved, Israel will close down all the area that you can see marked here in red and its surrounding for Palestinians. They will not be able to use this road anymore, the road that they are using now. And this means that we estimate it to be about 3% of the West Bank that the Palestinians will have no access to with cars, meaning that they don't have access to it. And there are also Palestinian communities here in this red area, like Khan el Ahmar is the most famous of them. We're talking about several thousand Palestinians that eventually will be displaced because of this road. But for Israel to build E1, they have to have such a road because the the situation today that the Palestinian cars drive along with the Israeli cars is that they can theoretically turn also into Israel. And so there is a checkpoint to make sure that no Palestinian cars will go in from Ma'ale Adumim. But this means that the settlers of Ma'ale Adumim, who commute to Jerusalem every day, most of them work in Jerusalem, they need to stand in the traffic jam of this checkpoint. So if you want to double the number of settlers in Ma'ale Adumim, you have to have better highways and you cannot have a checkpoint. So in order to kick out the checkpoint, you need to kick out the Palestinians from the roads over there. And this is what the government is now promoting. They already allocated the money for it. By the way, it's money that's supposed to go to Palestinians, but because it's a road for Palestinians, so why not? And that's very, very alarming.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah, well, fundamentally, just to add on to that, I mean, I think it almost creates a two geographically a two-tier model. So essentially it cut through the core, the middle core of the West Bank. Um, and the way to get from the north of the West Bank to get to the south of the West Bank is essentially to go under an Israeli, what would effectively be an Israeli area, because there will be one contiguous area for what is now Israel all the way to Ma'ale Adumim without a checkpoint, so effectively annexing that area to Israel. But the Palestinians will if I understand the geography, they will simply have an underpass, so
yeah,
they won't go through that area. You won't see them, they won't see you. They'll get from point A to point B, but but you create a contiguous kind of settlement block. It's why that area of Ma'ale Adumim has not been thus far on the quote-unquote Israeli side of the barrier. It's for the reason you describe, Hagit. So thank
yeah,
you. That's I
exactly.
think I think that was really helpful. Jenny, I'll come to you.
First of all, thank you so much, Hagit. This is disturbing, but also really crucial to hear and understand. Um, so what does this mean for, any kind of potential agreement if, somebody's hoping for a two-state solution, let's say, or like some sort of regional agreement? Because it looks like these things are just making it much more difficult. Um, what are your thoughts on that?
Uh, I think it makes the agreement much, much harder. Any solution that you think of is harder now than one day ago. Okay. Um, However, eventually it's a matter of political will,
Mhm.
and it's not that you cannot undo it. I mean, it's not that physically we cannot uh, remove settlements. It's not impossible. It's the impossibility of it is the fact that it's um, uh, there is no political will in Israel to change it. So I think eventually we need to make the political will, and I also think what happened in the 7th of October, this horrible attack. I think we are not yet fully understanding the consequences of it. I think first of all, in the Israeli um, understanding, I mean, I keep going back to the 73 war, Yom Kippur War, that was so horrible. And it took 5 years for the Israeli public to accept, to really understand that we have to do, uh, to compromise and to give up on land in order to get peace with Egypt. And it was the majority of Israelis supported it when it happened 5 years later. And I hope that such an outcome might also be from this horrible trauma that we experienced. And also, I think that the horrible attacks that we did on Gaza and killed so many innocent people and destroyed the lives of so many people made the situation for Israel totally different than 2 years ago. I mean, today, the you are familiar with that much more than I am, how it is uh, Israel is spoken about, and how, decent people think that Israel is the bad guy and that it shouldn't be allowed to continue with these policies. And and I think we still don't realize the deep and far-reaching of the consequences of that. So, although it's very sad, but it's also might bring us to where we need to go, which is the very painful price that we need to pay and to undo this occupation. But it's not impossible.
Mm.
And because we're in a year of, hopefully, fingers crossed, elections in Israel,
Yeah.
who do you think, might actually be serious and useful in this process of um, ending, like you said, this policy of managing the conflict and um, encouraging the settlements and completely ignoring international law? Um, who are the people that you're hoping, might have more political power to actually try to stop this?
I think it's very clear who are the people that are um, advocating today against the settlements, and they are clearly in favor of an agreement or end of occupation in the Israeli politics. What is concerns me is that the liberal camp has also components that are right wing or that support the settlements, and especially I'm referring to people like Naftali Bennett and Lieberman, who are part of the anti-Netanyahu
Mhm.
um, um,
Camp.
camp, and the liberal camp, but they are horrible in terms of their politics about settlements. Bennett was the minister to sign the um, the funding for the farms that later was implemented by this government. It was signed by Bennett when he was Minister of Settlement in the previous government. And he used to advocate for an annexation of Area C. That was his plan. Um, And I'm worried that some of the liberal camp that don't support it will vote for him because he's going to be the strongest or whatever. But still, we don't know the elections. We don't know when it's going to be, but and we don't know yet who's going to run with whom and how is it going to look like. There is a potential. There is a potential for for change. I think the settlers, and I mean the settlements, are not supported so much by Israelis. So Israelis are more angry about Palestinians or more racist. But you know what happened after 7th of October, that the leadership of the right-wing religious settlers are talking about a miraculous time, that it's a time of a miracle, that they are dancing while we are crying. It seems so odd and so far from so many Israelis that I don't think they have the support that we think, we might think they have.
Okay. Thank you, Hagit. Just to read a comment from Emily Thornberry, who is an MP, and thank you so much for joining us, Emily. It's an honor. So Emily said, if there is anything that it is felt that she or the Foreign Affairs Committee can do, please get in touch with me. We're working on a response. I agree that much of the solution will need to come from Israeli people, but what influence we have, we need to use as effectively as we can. Thank you, Emily.
Thank you very much.
We agree with that. Absolutely.
I think this is a good place to end. Thank you so much for joining us, Hagit. I know it's late in Jerusalem now. Thank you, Rovi. Thank you to everyone who joined. And yeah, we'll send the recording to all of you. And if Hagit can send me the details of where people might be able to volunteer for protective presence, I'm happy to share that as well with everyone. Thank you and have a good night.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye, Hagit.